AITA for being a burden on my sister? Plus update. This post is posted by you. Throw the away to AITA on R. Am I the asshole? Original post. AITA for being a burden on my sister? Not from United States, so sorry for bad English. When I, 21M, was a kid, my mom passed away and my sister, 28F, was basically my maternal figure. This happened when I was 6 and my dad goes to work at 5 a.m. and only comes back around 11 p.m. My sister usually took care of me. She sacrificed a lot to take care of me and she spoiled me a lot too. Despite my dad telling her not worry about cooking, she would always come home from school and cook. And she was the one who helped me pack for school trips. My dad and I are really grateful to her and she always says she wouldn't have done anything different. She was basically my mom. And I'm very close with her. She calls me daily and checks in on me. And does the same with my dad. Once again, for my dad and I, we couldn't imagine life without her. We both feel really bad about her sacrificing her childhood, but she insists she didn't sacrifice anything as she still did stuff and all she did extra was cook and help take care of me. But that's a huge responsibility that me and my dad acknowledge. My sister and her girlfriend, 24F, have been in a relationship for 2 to 3 years. I recently moved to my sister's city after transferring to her college. I went to visit her and her girlfriend and catch up over lunch since it's been 6 to 7 months since I've seen my sister. This was my first time meeting her GF. When I saw my sister and met her GF, everything was normal. My sister invited me to visit their apartment whenever I had a chance. My sister asked me if I wanted some of her home-cooked meals she made for me as a kid and I smiled and asked if she could make one of my favorites. I love my sister's cooking and I was really happy she offered. Her GF's face contorted but she didn't say anything. My sister got called into a work emergency at her hospital and told me and her GF to continue lunch without her and finish meeting each other. As soon as my sister left, her GF's attitude started changing. She told me my sister always spoke so fondly of me when all I seemed like was a burden and how my dad and I were misogynistic and brainwashed my sister to be our servant. She, GF, said she's, my sister, a victim who doesn't realize she's a victim. She said so many hurtful things and said I came back into my sister's life and even now I'm being a burden by asking her to cook for me. We both left. But it didn't end there. She messaged me on Instagram with more of the same stuff. She said if I care about my sister I won't tell her the conversation we had since GF was just looking out for my sister. And I would slowly take me and my dad out of my sister's life. I feel so bad. I never wanted my sister to lose her childhood or be my servant. The more I think about it, the more I think maybe her GF is right. So AITA for being a burden on my sister her entire life? Should I slowly distance myself from her? What do I do to let her live her own life? Update. AITA for being a burden on my sister update. Thank you all for your advice. I collected evidence of sister's GF and the messages she sent me and was thinking about whether or not to show my sister. I talked to my father about it since it includes him too, and my father cried at the thought of his daughter being better off without him. But both my father and I both don't want to cut my sister out of our life. And we thought we were selfish. My father has never cried except for when my mom died. He didn't cry when his parents died. But that day he cried, thinking about not having contact with his daughter. The second time in my life I've seen him cry. I finally showed my sister with my dad. And she was shocked. She said she's never thought of it as a burden to care for me, and she hugged me and we all had a family crying session as we reflected on the hardships and memory after my mother passed away. My father and I told my sister we don't mind what the girlfriend did and she should be with her if she's happy. But my sister said it's run its course. Anyone who doesn't like my dad and me isn't right for her is what she said, and that the three of us are a package deal. My sister broke it off with her GF, and her GF unfortunately has nowhere to go since my GF let her stay in her apartment so far without asking for rent. My sister blocked her on everything, and so did I. Her GF messaged me on a burner account saying she doesn't even care that I made her homeless. That's the least of her happiness. But it's that I ruined my sister's love and that I'm homophobic. I showed my sister those messages, and my sister laughed and told me to ignore any communication from her. My sister has assured me I didn't ruin the relationship, and she would have been heartbroken if I or my dad distanced ourselves. She said she's proud of the Alan I grew up to be, and she wouldn't change anything about the past. We both cried again. That's it. Thank you, Reddit. I am not op. The first move of an abuser is to cut you off from your support system. Calls family a burden on GF, pays no rent to live with GF. Okay friend. Projection is a hell of a drug. Well, someone wasn't happy with only part of the attention, and wanted all of it. Massive sign of abuse in relationships is trying to isolate a person from their support system. I'm sorry I'm dead at the GF saying all of this when she was living rent-free. Guess she wanted to get rid of her meal tickets, other punches. The fact of the matter is this. You get to feel however you want to feel about your life. Even if objectively you went through traumatic and/or damaging stuff. You get to feel however you want about it. And sometimes your way of handling a tough situation was useful and good to you then, but might not be useful or good to you now. Could the sister have maladaptive coping mechanisms from taking on that responsibility? Sure. I would argue she absolutely does, since she let her GF live rent-free and perhaps didn't notice the signs of someone trading on her goodwill. But that doesn't mean that her coping with her mother's death by caring for her family wasn't helpful to her then. That doesn't mean it was a bad way of grieving then. It might mean she's an easy target now though. And if op wants to repay their sister, thinking about caring for her back is a great way of doing that. You're a burden to your sister. Unlike me, who's living in her apartment rent-free. Lol, her argument falls apart pretty fast there. But I agree it was likely just an abuser grasping at straws. Good thing Oop spilled the beans to the sister instead of cut contact with her. Because if you ask me, the girlfriend was trying to isolate the sister from Oop and their dad. Which is a red flag. Bold of her to tell op he's a burden when she mooch off the sis and live in her apartment. She said she's proud of the Alan I grew up to be. Ah bless, Alan. Parentification is real. And it's awful. The sister's life probably was spoiled. However, it's never the fault of the child the parentified one was made to care for. Blaming the child, in this case, Oop, is ridiculous and hurtful for no reason. There's nothing the child could possibly have done to alleviate the situation. Even in the extremely uncommon case where they had complete knowledge of the situation, people who are lawfully minors have next to no control over their lives. And in a situation like this, there's no objectively good outcome. One parent passes away and the other is forced to work shatteringly long shifts in order to make ends meet, leaving one child to parent the other. It's no one's fault but the system's. GF sounds like she's using the sister as servant. Since my sister let her stay in her apartment so far without asking for rent. Pot, meat kettle LMAO. The way to not be a burden is that now that you are at a place in your life that you be there for her. Just like she was there for you. OOP's sister took on the responsibility and still went to college and is living on her own. Dad and brother and her dealt with the death of mom the best they could. Sister didn't feel it was a burden, and these three are a great family. It spoke volumes that sister and GF were together for 2-3 years and brother is just meeting her. GF was happy to isolate the sister and wanted to break all family contact behind sister's back. Why do so many conflicts end with someone being called homophobic, transphobic, East? Like maybe they just don't like you as a person. I'm also proud of the Alan they grew up to be. She said if I care about my sister I won't tell her the conversation we had since GF was just looking out for my sister. And I would slowly take me and my dad out of my sister's life. Yeah. That's abuser talk. Is Alan a typo? I don't even care. I'm proud of the Alan Op grew up to be too. Good for Alan. How ironic. GF said Oop and Dad are a burden when she is leeching on sister for free accommodation.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.